not even a third of I have over like 200 files that it goes through when I do the full scan, but when I do the quick scan, it's only like 11,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, that's the one thing I hate. I love Norton. I will never not have it. I will never not have it on my computer for my protection because while I've had it, I've never had issues with anything going wrong from anybody or anything. It blocks stuff very well.
Right.
I pay a pretty price for it, but it does what it's supposed to do.
There you go. Anybody else hate Norton? We're live, by the way, Dan.
No, I love Norton.
Okay, frustrated with Norton. That's the question. Anybody else frustrated with Norton? Okay. Right. All right. So anyway, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl. I'm here with my good friend Dan. I guess we're really more like co-hosts than I'm the host and you're not, but we're both co-hosts, so I think that sounds better. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about Atomic Habits. We've been talking about that for a while now by James Clear. There we go, in case you need to see that. And we're on chapter 15, which is called The Cardinal Rule of Behavioral Change. And this section of the book is actually talking about the fourth law of behavioral change, which is make it satisfying. And so the biggest thing that this particular chapter talks about is basically the reward for the action or the immediate gratification of an action and how that pertains to habit change. So, but before we get going on that, so let's Dan, go ahead and jump out and introduce yourself.
Dan Sissick, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we're getting kind of really muggy weather. We're getting into what we call our on season, which anywhere else they laugh at us and say that's not rain, but it's rain. But it's not rained yet, but it's been very sticky, so I don't like that. I like the nice, hot, clear blue skies, hot. So I want that back.
Right on, I get that. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and right now it's pretty comfortable. It's probably about 73, 74 without too much humidity. And yeah, that humidity kills it. It just makes warm weather miserable when it's too hot. We're in the upper 80s and it's humid. It's like so sticky and oppressing, or compressing, or depressing. It's all of the pressings. So anyway, I get it. I don't know what I would do with 100 and some degrees though, even if it wasn't humid, because it's still freaking hot. So. But I can tolerate up into the 90s without humidity. It's not terrible as long as there's a breeze. You guys have a breeze out there? At least have a breeze.
If we do,
Waves.
It could
Waves of
be.
heat wafting you.
Yeah, it's more kind of like that. So, but okay. So,
It kind of makes me think about a dehydrator. I'm like, Uh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
So what?
Okay, chapter 15.
15. So for me, I gotta kind of go back because I read the next chapter that we're thinking that we were on, chapter 16. So back, this was talking about Pakistan, where Karachi was one of the most populous cities in the world by 1998. Over 9 million people call it home. 9 million, 25 million that live there. But similar situations, a lot of squalor, a lot of, um, poverty, and I've been to parts of Mexico and I've seen in some of the rural parts just what that poverty looks like and how it plays out and stuff. So I can imagine in these big cities like Karachi and Mexico and some of those where It was the economic center of Pakistan and a transportation hub with some of the most uh, active airports and seaports in the region. In the commercial parts of town, you could find all of the standard urban amenities and bustling downtown streets. But Karachi was the world. Over 60% of Karachi's residents lived in squatter settlements and slums, and where people just take whatever they can use to build, you know, what what they would call a house. I mean, cardboard paneling, stuff that's thrown out, anything they could use that could slap up, stick together, glue together, however they put it together. And it talks about these densely packed neighborhoods were filled with makeshift houses cobbled together from old boards, cinder blocks, and other discarded materials. There was no waste removal system, no electricity grid, no clean water supply. When dry, the streets were a combination of dust and trash. When wet, they became a muddy pit of sewage, and the mosquito colonies thrived in pools of stagnant water, and children played among the garbage, sanitary and stuff. And it was talking about how Luby and this guy named Luby, Stephen Luby, left from Omaha, Nebraska, and went there and saw the, and talks about contaminated water sources caused epidemics of diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. Nearly one-third of children living there were malnourished. So many people crammed, it was this public health crisis that brought Stephen Luby to Pakistan. And him and his team realized that in an environment with poor sanitation, the simple habit of washing your hands could make a real difference. And we all grew up with our parents saying, especially after going to the bathroom or, touching dirty stuff, make sure you wash your hands before you touch food or this or that or that. Half the time, me as a kid, I'd just go, really, does it make a difference? Well, after hearing, other stories and getting older and understanding the difference, but I never realized it could go to this depth where even in this place where getting into the habit of washing their hands, um, can make a difference. It says that, but they soon discovered that many people were aware that hand washing was important. So they were told the same things, growing up told the same thing. And yet, despite this knowledge, many residents were washing their hands in a haphazard fashion. Some people would just run their hands under the water quickly, others would only wash one hand. Many would simply forget to wash their hands before preparing food. And so this is the key point. Everyone said hand washing was important, but few people made a habit out of it. The problem wasn't knowledge, the problem was consistency. And that's what I think is the consistency. Getting in that habit where, like, a lot of the day-to-day routines I do, I get up, I have the routine I go through every morning to get ready to go to work, drive to work, and, and it's so funny because my body's even set to that, because I tend to get up, go to the bathroom around the same time every morning around, and my body's in that routine. And so by, helping to understand that, it says that that was when Luby and his team partnered with Procter and Gamble to supply with Safeguard soap. Compared to your standard bar of soap, using Safeguard was more enjoyable experience. In Pakistan, Safeguard was a premium soap. Imagine, to them that would probably be like paying, I'm going to the extreme here, but maybe, paying a year's salary to get that soap, whereas we would pay, very minimal amount here in the States because of how their economic stuff is, and now, to afford those things, it just really is way out of the realm of what they can afford. But it talks about the study participants The steady participants calmly mentioned how much they liked it. The soap foamed easily, and the people were able to lather their hands with suds. It smelled great, and instantly hand washing became slightly more pleasurable. So it means it made it more enjoyable. They liked it. It made them feel good. You know, it became an experience that they wanted to enjoy over and over. And so it says, I see the goal of hand washing promotion not as a behavior change, but as a habit adaptation. And they noticed that when they went back after some time, more people were sticking to the hand washing because of soap and because of it still being available. Maybe not as much as it was when his team was there on a regular basis, but I think it was still available, and people would have it in certain areas where they could go publicly and maybe use it and stuff like that. So I think, sometimes if we understand the essence of what a habit can do and how it can help us and how pleasurable and enjoyable we can make it, can be the big difference in whether or not we continue it. But I don't know. I mean, have you ever had that experience or anything like that? I know I have in certain things I've done.
Yeah, I think that the the enjoyableness of it makes a huge difference. And you know, he goes on to talk about like our ancestors living in like the immediate um what did he say? Immediate
Grat-
reaction.
gratification.
It wasn't immediate gratification. He was saying immediate return environment versus, you know, delayed return environment. Of course, you know, back in the time of you know, well, he actually was talking about animals roaming the plains of Africa, and of course, back in the early ages of man, we were basically living like animals. So same kind of thing. So immediate return environment, meaning, you know, the decisions that you make in the immediate moment are going to have immediate results. And then it wasn't until like in the last, I don't know, he was suggesting like the last 500 years where we've swapped over to more of a delayed return environment. And oh, by the way, real quick, Mohammed, thanks for joining us. He commented on our Facebook stream, so thanks for jumping out there. If you have any thoughts on this immediate, immediate reaction or immediate return, well, anything on habits, really. Do you have any habits you're trying to change? Um, but anyway, so the
I wonder.
difference
I
between
wonder if
immediate
he.
and
I wonder if
uh,
he can get on as a guest.
maybe I don't know. Comment if you'd like to try and join us, and I'll see if I can send you a link where you could participate, Mohammed. Um, okay, so anyway, we're talking about the immediate return versus delayed return in relation to habits. And of course, with habits, when things are immediately satisfying, then we have a tendency to do those things. And when they're not, then, or we, you know, the result of our habit is going to be something happening in the future, then it's a little bit more difficult to create good habits. And then he was also talking about how bad habits typically have an immediate satisfying result, and good habits, it takes longer to see those results, which is why we have so many bad habits, you know. Like with me and ice cream. You know, if I eat ice cream every single day, then, you know, the long-term result is going to be, you know, not as great of health, probably more weight, etc. And but yet that immediate satisfaction aspect of it is that it tastes good. It's cold when it's hot outside. You know, all of those different things, and you know, it's just enjoyable instantaneously. And so when he's talking about that, you know, what you were referring to, Dan, with the hand washing in Pakistan, I mean, that's such a huge thing that, you know, just something so simple as just making it, you know, feel good when you're doing it and smell good when you're doing it can make all the difference in like creating a habit. And, you know, I completely understand that because I can tell you, you know, if I was washing my hands with soap that doesn't lather and that it doesn't smell good, et cetera, then I'd probably be less interested in doing it. maybe back in the beginning. Now I'm like, it's a big habit because of like germophobia, you know. But I mean, back when I first started, then probably not, you know. And you know, and I know he was mentioning in here about like chewing gum, which I thought was really interesting. He said take the story of chewing gum. Chewing gum had been sold commercially throughout the 1800s, but it wasn't until Wrigley launched in 1891 that it became a worldwide habit. And I was sitting here wondering what was the purpose of chewing gum before Wrigley made it pleasurable with flavor. I don't even understand that. Why would you want to chew something that doesn't even taste good? Because I feel like chewing gum in and of itself, the whole purpose of it is just to have that flavor in your mouth, or to chew it for some kind of a satisfying result. And which is kind of funny. I suppose that's pretty much the epitome of creating habit right there. It's just making something that had no purpose into a pleasurable experience. But I don't know. Maybe it did have a purpose, and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know what their thought process was on that. So maybe it. Go ahead.
I was going to jump out and say a little something too about. I think I think that's part of our problem is we all have become so based on what we get through our environment, from TV, news, radios, other people's stuff. We get fed so much stuff about how, oh, we should, live in the moment, go for this, go for that, not delay things and stuff like that. A little study about, man and animals and man back, like in stone, caveman days, or and that, and as we progress forward, go into that reaction where you had to make split-second decisions sometimes, as even to just live, but as to whether or not, okay, do we eat this fruit that we think is good, or do we eat this fruit because it's here and now and we know it's good? Maybe roaming or going somewhere else to find better food or better water source or something, you know, hoping that I'll find more abundance. And I think he said that even it wasn't until the last like 100 years, man was still with maybe 200 or 300 years maybe, man was still in that realm, whereas now, like you said, um, we have so much there that can instantly react for us that we tend to go that route rather than doing the delayed and have better reward or whatever reaction that we will get if we kind of weigh the options and go from there. So I think that was interesting, on that part too, of how our brains have not really changed much from even when we were man was first kind of you know e- um, growing, and as we were becoming more civilized. That it's we do tend to be we don't like to wait. We don't like to um, put off things because then it reinforces and builds up more of you know that reaction. But sometimes we'll keep doing something even though it's a bad reaction because we get an instant reward or instant reaction right at that time. And I think that's something else we have to look at you know is our decision going to be the right a that could take us down the road of, well, we want to eat better, we want to eat healthier, we want to but if I am don't overcome that urge for that immediate reaction of, oh, let me have a candy bar, instead of saying, oh, let me take a better choice and go get an apple and eat an apple, and stuff like that. So, that's the other playoff I think we have to work through and deal with too.
Yeah, I like how he kind of like was talking in here about he says behavioral economics refer to this tendency as time inconsistency, and he's talking about the difference between immediate return versus delayed return. And he said that a reward that is certain right now, because he's saying that the reward is the return, obviously, is typically worth more than one that is merely possible in the future. But occasionally, our bias towards instant gratification causes problems. And then he goes on to say, why would someone smoke if they know it increases lung cancer? Why would someone overeat if they know it increases their risk of obesity? Why would they have unsafe sex if they know it can result in transmitted disease or unwanted pregnancy? Once you understand how the brain prioritizes rewards, the answers become clear. The consequences of bad habits are delayed while the rewards are immediate. Smoking might kill you 10 years from now, but it reduces stress and eases nicotine cravings right now. Overeating is harmful in the long run, but appetizing in the moment. So every habit produces multiple outcomes across time, but these outcomes are often misaligned. With our habits, the immediate outcome usually feels good, but the ultimate outcome feels bad. And then with good habits, it's the reverse. Immediate outcome is enjoyable or is unenjoyable, but the ultimate outcome feels good. And he says, put another way, the cost of your good habits are in the costs of your good habits are in the present. The costs of your bad habits are in the future. So then, yeah, and then he's talking about, when you make a plan to lose weight or learn a language, or eat better, etc., you're actually making plans for your future self. And but when you're satisfying an instant need, then you're just more, all you care about is in the moment. So let's see. He says, when the moment of decision arrives, usually instant gratification is what wins. You no longer are making a choice for your future self, you're making a choice for your now self instead. So, he's saying what is immediately rewarded is repeated and what is immediately punished is avoided. He makes a suggestion in here for, let's see here, because he's talking about how to turn instant gratification to your advantage, and he uses an example of like if you're wanting to eat out less often, like if you're going out to eat too much, and he's talking about maybe creating. He says one solution is turn a situation on its head. So he says, like open a savings account and then label it something that you want. And then every time you pass on going out to eat is you take that money and you put it in your what you want to eat account or what you want to acquire account. And then because you're doing that, then you're creating kind of an instant gratification thing by not doing the thing that you're trying to avoid doing. And, I find that one really interesting because we've kind of changed our saving habits over the years, and something that's very similar to that is I have like different savings accounts set up for different things, and as I see the money going in there, it's satisfying seeing that balance go up for that particular thing that we're trying to achieve, and that has made a big difference. And I actually learned that technique from T. Harv Eckert from the Millionaire Mind course. I think he's got a book. I can't remember the book's name, but anyway, he talks a lot about that. Not necessarily in relation to habit creation, but in terms of, like changing it in your mind of why you're saving. Because, I don't know, I think we're taught when we're younger that, yeah, we should save, but we're not really given a purpose for those savings. And then when you can, like, create like in this book, he's talking about creating that instant gratification thing, is you can do the same thing. You give it a purpose, and then it feels like an instant reward. I wish he spoke more on, what to do like suggestions for rewards for exercising or eating better or whatever. Maybe he will in the next chapters. One thing he did mention was like maybe after he mentioned doing like a short-term reward of, what was it, going and getting a massage or something like that towards caring for yourself. And I'm like, I think that sounds great in theory, but at the same time, that's like a whole nother thing. So
Well,
I don't know.
and again, to me, that's the part of I think the rub of what happens is you sit there and think, okay, well, if I skip this, yeah, down the road, and at the moment, you're probably not thinking if I skip this and I put it into savings or whatever, yeah, down the road, I could go get that back rub or go get that massage or something. You're focused on that moment at that time. You're not really thinking about other things. So I think that's the other part of it is working on your mindset to get your mindset to understand and bring those things into play in the initial instance. But we're not taught to stop, really think about the decisions that we're making. And of course, sometimes we have to make those decisions instantaneously or almost right away. But like me, I have a hard time putting money into savings. I have what my bank allowed, an institution was allowing um, to do is take any purchases I make and any change that's left over, like round it up to the next dollar, any change left over on my debit card, it will put that uh, amount in my savings automatically. So some days I get $2 or $3, other days I might get 50 cents, but in time it builds up. And, there have been times where I've had over $200 saved up where all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can use that money to help cover this bill or pay that. It's come in handy when I really needed it. But other times it doesn't build up or compound as fast as, you know, say like putting it into a CD or something like that. Because granted, I think if banks were to offer better saving, interest on savings, more people would save. But people, that's the other thing. People think, well, I'm not going to get any real return on my savings, so why save? Why not just live in this moment, do what I want now? That's the other part I think with society, where we need to look, society as a whole need to change our mindset and how we look at things, and how some businesses do things like that. If a bank's gonna use your money and your interest, and sometimes give you flack about how you use your own money, you know, but give me something of a return so I do more business with you and want to take my money out of my bank, because to me it's just too much of a hassle to go open up a whole new checking account, a whole new, you know, and build up. Because I've been with my bank now for 30 years, ever since my initial bank was taken over by a big bank, things like that. So I think that's the other thing is sometimes societal uh, hazards or roadblocks or whatever kind of get in the way sometimes of even making the changes that you want to make, because there's not enough of a return to even make you want to make that change. If you understand what I'm getting at,
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that there are a lot of cultural and societal and just advertising and everything else. They make the stuff so easy and instant gratification, like this whole chapter is talking about, for fast food restaurants and instant purchasing. I mean, they keep trying to make it easier and easier and easier for us to make purchases by like putting apps on our phone. It's like today I'm going to go to the Meijer grocery store because I need a few things, and I had a choice between picking between going to Walmart or Meijer based on the things I need to get. And I chose to go to Meijer because Meijer has this app now where you can just literally go through the store, scan the item, and then and put it in a bag ready to go. And then all you got to do is just at the end of checkout is you just scan a QR code on your phone and then you check out at this, at their checkout station. And I'm like, that's so much easier than going around shopping for everything, putting it in your cart, then going up to the checkout, loading it all up to onto the belt, scanning all the items again. And even that is what seems to be easier and faster than when you had someone else doing the scanning, because they have so many of these, self checkouts now. But I'm like, I'd rather just go put it in a bag and scan it and go, I mean, that makes it that much easier, but they're doing more and more of these things to make it easier and easier and easier to buy stuff. And, just like with Amazon, you buy it and instantly get it in 2 hours, I mean, it's crazy. But it's the same thing with so many different things. It's easier to just buy prepackaged stuff at the grocery store and you get home and you eat it, or fast food or whatever. And so then when we're talking about making changes for your health, you've got to do these additional things in order to eat healthier foods. Like for us, and for instance, we're working towards just eating a better diet all the way around. And one of my things that we've decided to do is do a 30-day no eat out challenge. So I've got a calendar, and my gratifying thing that I get to do when we don't go out to eat is I get to make an X on my calendar. And that may seem really simple, but it's like, ooh, I've reached this goal of not eating out today, and that's kind of big for us because, at the end of a hard work day when you're hot and sweaty, covered in dirt and funk and everything else, and it's 1,000 degrees and 90% humidity, and you're like, the only thing you want to do is just go home and freaking take a shower. You don't want to go home and have to make food and then, get it all ready and choose what you want to eat, et cetera, et cetera. And so eating out has been kind of like it's just easier. And, but it's more expensive too. So I have like kind of a twofold thing that we're doing is we're doing this challenge and I get to check it off on the calendar, but then at the end of the month, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to put it in our vacation savings account, so, and then I get to see that. And so that's kind of going to be satisfying. And, but I can see how, one of the things that I'm working towards with diet related is trying to make it easier. And of course, that means I have to put more effort into it, like on the weekend, so I can prepare some stuff so that during the week it's ready to go. And all I got to do is just come home and eat it. I don't have to prepare it. And so that's kind of like the aspect of making it instantaneous and easier. And, because I can tell you, if we just keep on going along with the instant gratification of everything that's out there and so easily available, it's only going to be more detrimental to our health. Now, I do have to applaud some of these companies like Blue Apron and other ones like that, which are like, here, we're just going to send you this instantaneous, thing that all you got to do is saute it real quick and it's done. That's easier than like going to the store and picking out all the different things to make the different meals and planning ahead and, all of that. So, I mean, I do have to say there are some companies that are popping up that are embracing this whole instant gratification so that you can make better positive changes. I mean, that's great. And I imagine more and more of those are going to pop up, and the more that do are going to be they're tapping into this chapter right here. If we realize we all have to eat, we know we should eat better, but it's so much easier to just do fast food. So, the more of these companies that pop up that provide us with instant gratification for good stuff, because I mean, ultimately, I think we all want to do better for ourselves. We want to be healthier. We want to eat better. We want to have better habits when it comes to money and health and relationships and everything else. And the easier that it can be, then the easier it is for us to make those positive changes. And I wanted to mention something to you, Dan, about the savings thing. Is before, when we weren't really saving anything, I didn't have something tied to that ultimate savings. Why do I want to save this money? Why will I sacrifice everything else to save this money? Because that's ultimately what we have to do in order to save for retirement, is we have to make those sacrifices right now. And I started tying that 10% that I'm going to put aside absolutely no matter what to I won't ever have to work again, this crappy ass crap that I hate to do if I keep putting money into this financial freedom account. I'm like, that's what I'm tied to. And every time it goes up, I'm like, oh, I'm $100 closer to never having to work again. So that's like my thing. And sure, it only accumulates 10% at a time, but I'll tell you what, that thought process changed how I look at why I'm saving that money. And of course, I have to put other money aside too, a little bit here and there, because I'm like, okay, in our winter time, we can't work the trucking that we do, so I have to have money set aside for that. But I have other times, like when I want a thing, say I've been thinking about getting like a food dehydrator, and I'm like, I can't just go out and buy it because that's $40 or whatever. I mean, I could, but it would come from something else. It would come from paying my bills, right? But if I put it in, if I have something labeled in my savings, and I'm like, this money is going towards saving up for a food dehydrator. Well, I did it with my exercise bike, for instance. That was one thing. I was just like, every week I put $1 in there, or $5 or whatever I happen to have. And then I had a goal for that money, and I could see the amount going up, and that made a difference. I mean, I can see how that kind of gives a little level of satisfaction towards doing the thing that you want. And trying to work on more things health wise to make that so because there for the longest time with saving money, it was like, no, I don't have the money, I can't do it, I've got to pay bills, I've got to this, I've got to that, I don't even have enough money for groceries, et cetera, et cetera. And when I tied it to, this is going to help me not ever have to work again when I get to my goal. That was like, because that's the thing I dislike the most, is having to work jobs that I don't want to do, right? So anyway, I thought I'd share that.
No, I get you, and you saying that kind of helps me, because me, I'm really right now living where every bit of money I bring in goes towards my bills. Once in a little while, I might be able to, go get something, or do a little something nice or something like that, and I'd really like to. But when you were talking about some of these things before, about the instant gratification and stuff, and I've referred to this before, and I'm going to keep saying it, but we're fast approaching a Wall-E world where we're going to be these fat blobs sitting on these little things that move us around because we don't know how to get up and move and do things. At where we're headed, because you even said yourself, look what they're doing with being able to scan for food and this and that, the other thing. I'm sorry, I don't use a lot of apps. I go into the grocery store, I look, I buy, I go, and I try to go to real people that are the cashiers, because one, by going to so much automation, we're taking, and if everything is so automated, what are people really going to do? And I'm fighting that's part of a personal thing with me, is I'm trying to fight to help keep, because the way I look at it, if somebody's there actively working, they're making a wage, they're earning a living. I'm coming in buying produce and this and that stuff, and therefore keeping them employed by me working and bringing my money and you know, and it keeps, and so, because over the last 150 years, look at the changes from where we went from being an agrarial culture to where we're, more and more machines, more and more of this, because we're lazy asses. I hate to say it. We want things to be easy. We don't want to really work for anything. But yet, when at the end of the day, we feel good and feel better when we actually feel like we've had a purpose and do something. So I think, this world of being bought into, of making things based on and selling us and telling us and this, look at cars. Look how far cars have come, where we have GPS, we have this, we that, we don't really do anymore. We don't do a lot of thinking for ourselves. And I think that's the other part of it too, is, you know, yes, some things are nice and they do make things easier, but I'm also trying to balance my life to keep myself to where I can feel like I'm contributing to and being worth being here too. And I think that's the other part of, you know, some of my personal things that I have to look at in my decision making too, of where I want to go, what I'm wanting to do, and how I want to put my emphasis and help keep things moving, but at the same point, not keep things moving to where I'm just sorry. I really think we're working towards a Wally world where we have everything done for us and things like that. And that's my other mindset of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that is funny that you mentioned that. I remember watching that movie going, oh my God, way back when. But yeah, I wanted to give a shout out really quick to, hey, Jonathan and Christina, glad to have you join us. And sorry I didn't respond immediately when you commented. We're still getting used to doing this Facebook Live thing and being on the one interface to mute and unmute, and then jumping over to Facebook to see comments and stuff. Oh, mute that, Dan. I hear it.
Oh, okay, hang
I
on.
hear it.
Well, I was trying to look on there and see too.
Yeah.
So
If you right click on the tab for that window, you can mute that website. So you can mute Facebook, so that doesn't happen.
it was on my phone, so I don't know where to go
Oh,
on my
oh,
phone.
gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, never mind then. Yeah. So awesome. Do you have any final thoughts? I think we've pretty much covered this chapter for the most part, talking about just trying to make new habits satisfying instantaneously, or come up with a way to do that so that to work on positive habits, and then for bad habits is trying to create like an immediate punishment, if you will. I don't know. He didn't say specifically on that, but he was talking about making them less pleasant so that I mean, using that immediate gratification kind of rule, as if we can make something easier
Uh,
or more satisfying or instantly rewarding for the stuff we want to do, and then something to make it less satisfying or less rewarding or uncomfortable for the things that we want to stop doing, or create a reward for not doing the things like we were talking about, with the savings account, or I don't know. I still got to come up with some. I guess that with my exercising though is that I do have kind of like an immediate gratification while I'm watching a nature video while I'm riding my bike. But I have noticed that doesn't always motivate me to want to do it like every single morning. So I've got to come up with something better, and I don't know what that is yet. So yeah, any suggestions out there? Anybody? What do you do to get yourself motivated, to keep yourself, motivated, or instantly reward yourself for doing positive?
I'll throw this out. I think what it is now using the tools you've used to get yourself to do the exercising. Now it's going to be more of a mind over matter of telling yourself, this is the better me I'm working towards. This is, kind of like Xing off on the calendar, like you say. Somehow find a way of maybe, at the end of the day, say, hey, I did this much exercise today. I rode my bike for this long. This is going to get me to be able to chase after my grandkids more, have more energy for my grandkids as they're getting a little bigger and more playful and more, or buy a nice dress or something so me and my husband can go out for a nice date night or something. Something where you can look at, or even just say, hey, I'm working towards my better health so I can live longer and enjoy life more. Things like that where you get it in your head and forcing that better self that I think he talks about that we all want is to be our best and better selves, of what we know we can be and not where we're at right now. But I think this has been a good chapter. It opened my eyes to some thoughts and processes. Now it's just getting into the habit of implementing some of these things to where that's seems to be the hardest part for me on something. My head goes, "Oh yes, I." So now it's just finding the ways and the means to implement some of those habits and get better at that. And the tricks and trades, and I gone over in this book, and then when we go over something new, and then he throws it on top of something we learned back in chapter 3, or something like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I can, you know, so it's I'm at some point going to have to write these things down. So by writing it down, I tend to remember more and get it more in my head, and then that way think of ways of how I can start putting them into uh, practical use. So that's all I've got.
Right on. Well, cool, Dan. It's been a great chat this morning. I agree with you. This has been a enlightening chapter, and of course, I think all of them have just kind of made me think about things in a different way for for habit creation and habit reduction as well. So, great. I think that's it. So next week we'll talk about chapter 16, how to stick with good habits every day. So hopefully he'll give us some more suggestions on how to make them immediately satisfying and maybe even bad habits immediately not satisfying. I don't know. I sometimes
Preview,
have
yes,
to
yes.
tie you go ahead, what?
Preview, yes, he does. That's, join us next
Right.
week to find out, because I already know the answer. So, because I read that chapter last night.
Oh, right, right. Okay, gosh, sorry. There you go. Okay, awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us, and thanks, Christina, Mohammed, Jonathan. It was good to have you jump on and add a comment in the Facebook live stream. That's pretty awesome that we're able to do that. Used to be able to do that with Google Hangouts way back when, and then it just kind of pooped out on us. So now that we're using this, we can do it on Facebook. I'm excited about that. So anyway, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week, and we will see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now. I gotta figure out how to make this thing